Well, hey everyone, and thank you again for engaging this book study with me. And I really do hope it's been a blessing in your life. I think we can all agree that no matter what side we sort of land on when it comes to these important topics, that they are worth thinking through. And they're worth contemplating on and really asking, what effects are they having on our society, on ourselves, on our families, communities, and on our children. And in this video, we're going to be having kind of an overview of chapter 11. This is a challenging chapter. It's getting much more into kind of the real world implications of things we could do. So let's get into chapter 11 here. And Jonathan, how it really starts right on out with something he is very passionate about. And that is schools going to phone free and increasing the amount of free play that kids engage in school. He talks about the outcomes that Mountain Middle School and also the Central Academy of the Arts experienced. And frankly, it's amazing. Honestly, I don't find it shocking though. I do find it amazing. I find it amazing that there were enough leaders that were willing to make that bold of a move and to stand in that gap. It doesn't surprise me because you see the effects of phone-based childhood on kids everywhere. I remember just a few weeks ago, I went to a Qdoba Mexican restaurant and I was inside and there was an entire volleyball team inside of this Qdoba. Right? I was standing in line, I was looking around, and I just noticed it was way too quiet in this Qdoba. Like, have you ever been to a volleyball game? It is loud. Those girls are loud, and it's a ruckus. It's fun, it's exciting, it's cheerful, but in there, it was drab. Every girl was on their phone. Everyone. This quote of being forever elsewhere was on full display. Then, just a few days ago, I'm at a Chick-fil-A. There was a table of 16 girls at a Chick-fil-A. Again, no one was talking to each other. Two of them had earbuds in their ears and they were all staring at their phones. Now, I admit I'm 39. I'm a bit removed. I got, I get it. But from an outside perspective, it was strange. So I started asking teachers that I know, hey, what's it like in your schools? And basically, they said it was like that. Like the Qdoba, unless a teacher makes rules of their own, there are not many that have a guiding rule of how are cell phones going to be used. But the stats are in. The outcomes are witnessed. And now, as I kind of said in the last video in the closing, I'm team get the phones out of the schools. I am. I mean, just look from this chapter, the amount of issues it meets head on, right? You have academics improve, socialization better, less distractions, increased community, increased connections, etc., etc. Right? Again, Jonathan, he's not going to eliminate internet from schools, but just personal devices and personal devices in your pockets because they have what he says, the worst cost benefit ratio of technology in a school. Now, as I've been listening to arguments from both sides, the overwhelming argument for not wanting to go phone free is parents who wonder, how will I get a hold of my child or my child get a hold of me in the case of a school shooting or an accident or something? Right? Jonathan says, the fact that teachers, coaches, counselors, mentors, the adults have their cell phones in order to notify law enforcement or emergency personnel, right? in case of an emergency. And frankly, it's also easier for law enforcement to do what they need to do when they're not receiving 200 separate 911 calls all at the same time. Now, I know that there's going to be some parents and their need for constant contact and maybe even control with their kids is really high. And they need to be able to track them, get a hold of them at any moment that they want, right? So I understand it doesn't come with complexities. Anytime you change anything, there's complexities. But when you look at the cost benefit ratio, I think a better argument can be made for phone-free schools. Now, I know I sound critical of helicopter parents, but hear me on this one. I agree with a quote from the book, right, that says this: we shouldn't blame parents for helicoptering. We should blame and change the culture that tells parents they must helicopter. Parenting has changed a lot. And unfortunately, there is a lot of fear-based parenting that is really motivating a lot of parents, but that's not parenting from a place of freedom. Fear-based parenting is very anxiety-driven. It's not fun, and it doesn't bring out the best in us. The reality is, our kids going to make mistakes? Yes. Are things always going to go right? No. But we should be looking for healthy paths to balance the scales a bit, right? Lessen the amount of hovering that we're doing over every aspect of our child's physical life, but also raising the standards for how we are parenting them in their digital realities. Otherwise, how are they going to grow? How are they going to mature? How are they going to learn for themselves how to thrive in the real world? You know, I do hope that this chapter was challenging and maybe helped to give some framework for some of these topics that are happening right now in our own state. My goal is not to politicize this at all, not to try to take sides or to allow this to be weaponized on some issue, but simply that parents think critically, get informed, think about what is best for our kids and their development, and have enough courage and empowerment to take action when action needs to be taken for the sake of our kids. Well, I hope that this is a good overview of chapter 11. We're landing the plane here, all right? So in our next video, we'll be looking at chapter 12, asking some good, hard questions. I hope you're engaging the study guide. I hope you're finding some of these other supplemental resources beneficial. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time for an overview of chapter 12. See you then.